Good morning. It is wonderful to see all of you. As it seems to be our tradition, everyone's sitting back except for this lovely group down here up front. Thank you. And as those of you come on down toward the front, and we'll fill in here. Welcome to our opening assembly. I know it's a really busy week as we get prepared for the fall semester, and as we welcome hundreds of new students on campus later in the week. So much to be done, but for those of you that are new, it's our tradition to gather together in this place and have some updates and meet some new people and get acquainted with one another as we launch into the new semester. So I'm really glad to get to welcome you back. I'll be up a little bit more with some of our folks to give you some updates, but for now we're going to begin by welcoming some new staff and new faculty. Lee Ellington's going to come and introduce the staff, and then Dr. Cowart will come and introduce the faculty. And I think the way we're going to do this is they'll call your name, and if you just stand so we can put a name with a face, hold applause, and at the end of each group we'll applaud to welcome you. And this is just the beginning of us get to know you a little bit better. So Lee Ellington, come kick us off. Everyone, welcome Lee.
Good morning. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Admissions undergraduate, Zachary Smith, admission counselor. All right. Hannah Wagner, admissions events and marketing coordinator. Okay, you didn't follow instructions. Athletics, Adam Jajo, assistant football coach. Alex Gonzalez, assistant coach swimming. Cole Hales, pitching coach baseball. Ryan Little, assistant coach tennis. Julian Lopez, assistant coach men's soccer. Miles Moffitt, assistant coach men's lacrosse. Alex Moraz, head coach men's soccer. Brooke Moran, assistant athletic trainer. Marshara Morton, assistant coach track and field. Nora Simmons, assistant athletic trainer. Raheem Thomas, assistant coach men's volleyball. Ignashua Blaylock, assistant coach men's soccer. Lee Wattam, assistant coach women's soccer. Business office. Linda Bowman, director of student accounts. Cody Kelly, resolution team, senior financial model operation lead. Gloria Robinson, senior procurement specialist. Michelle Whitson, senior accountant. Jessica Wright, accounting supervisor, reporting specialist. Chaplain's office. Kat Fire, music vocation program manager. Conference and events. Pavel Gabriel, senior IT media supervisor. Counseling service. Amelia Glasser, counselor. Enrollment management. Stacy Gatto, vice president. Environmental and sustainability. James Mayfield, Furl Swine management researcher. Robert Sheehan, department coordinator. Finance and administration. Stephanie Isom, associate vice president of finance. Garrett Solomon, associate vice president for facilities and capital planning. Bob Wallet, vice president. Catawba Online Graduate Programs. Chris Gilbert, instructional designer. LaLanda Moody, senior online and graduate enrollment counselor. Honors and humanities. Allison Tesh, Honors Program Coordinator, Humanities and Social Behavioral Sciences, Administrative Assistant. Human Resources, Blake Nolan, Administrative Assistant. International Studies, Jess Alfaro, Director. Information Technology, Luke Davis, IT Support Specialist Tier 1. Alex Tevez, Application Specialist. Office of the Executive Vice President and Provost, Christine Fry, QEP Director. Dr. Tatiana Mann, Senior Project Manager. Public Safety Officers, Bravon Goodlett, Miles Lester, Shakira Roberts. Registrar Office, Robin Listerman, Registrar. Ella Porter, Assistant Registrar. Residence Life, Cameron Clifton, Area Coordinator of Housing and Residence Life. Kaylin Lamb, Assistant Director of Housing and Residence Life. Student Affairs, Cal Jenkins, Coordinator for the Immersive Student Experience. Laura Levi, Coordinator of Wellness, Health, and Recreation. Dr. Justin Tyler Owens, Dean of Students. All right, now we have some now we have some position changes. This is exciting news. Athletics, Pam Barber, Assistant AD for Business Operations. Catawba Online Graduate Program, Jennifer Barbie, Online Graduate Enrollment Counselor. Human Resources, Brenda Jones, HR Data Specialist. Registrar Office, Elizabeth Slate, Associate Registrar. Student Affairs, Latavia Gray, Operation Manager for Student Affairs. Dr. Leary Nurse, Associate Dean. Student Success, Kiera Hardwood, Senior Student Success Coach. Eric Kidd, Success Coach and Academic Support Coordinator. Now we can all give everybody a round of applause. Now we have Dr. Cowart.
Good morning, everyone. I am excited to be able to announce our new class of faculty members who are joining us. And we are going to start with the Goodman School of Education. Dr. Lute, Assistant Professor of Math Education. Dr. Vestal, Assistant Professor of Early Childhood Education and Director of the new Center for Excellence in Early Childhood Education. Hurley School of Arts and Sciences, and Humanities. Let's pause there for a second. The humanities and the arts and sciences do not get enough time these days. All right, modern foreign language. We have our Assistant Professor of Spanish, Dr. Sanchez Cabrera, and Religion and Philosophy, Dr. Cantons. You saw some enthusiasm there because I'm a professor of philosophy. So Assistant Professor of Philosophy, there are not a lot of philosophy professors joining institutions these days. And the same is true, actually, for Spanish professors. So we are really excited to have you both here. We're excited for all of our faculty members, don't worry though. All right, Hurley School of Arts and Sciences, the sciences. Biology, our Assistant Professor for the Bill and Shari Graham Genomics Laboratory, Director, Dr. Camacho. And Physics, our visiting Assistant Professor. We're very excited to welcome Dr. Shreza, Kettner School of Business. AI, Artificial Intelligence, and Information Systems, we have an assistant professor joining us, Dr. Sintron Arias, and for management, an associate professor, Dr. Molef. School of Health Sciences and Human Performance. For clinical mental health counseling, our new assistant professor, Professor Parancheri. For recreational therapy, we're really happy to welcome Dr. Fisher, who will also be chairing the entire department. And for sport management, our associate professor who is joining us, Dr. Crowley. Shuford School of Performing Arts. For music, we are welcoming our assistant professor, Dr. Rose. For theater arts, we are happy to welcome our assistant professor of dance, Professor Kavanaugh. And our assistant professor of lighting design and technical direction, one of the longest titles that you will see today, we are very excited to welcome Professor Wampler. All right, now, let's give them all a hand. And as Stacy and Mary Beth come up to join me, I just want to say something about this faculty hiring cycle before we jump forward to even additional exciting news about enrollment management. We have amazing faculty members at Catawba College. All of you make a difference daily in the lives of our students. When I interviewed here, it was apparent to me. Our faculty are incredible. I am so excited that we are continuing that tradition of incredible faculty members as we welcome this new class. So please, I want to do it again. Let's give them a hand. And I also would like to note that all of those faculty members did not just miraculously come here. There were search committees, and there were individuals from various departments who took time out of their day in order to serve on those search committees. So for everyone who served on a search committee last year for faculty members, please stand up. Thank you. I didn't even have to ask for applause because it is pretty evident. I really do appreciate your help with that because we have a fabulous incoming class. And again, for those new faculty members, it's a great time to be at Catawba. And now, with other good news, we are going to lean into enrollment management. And I am so proud of both the undergraduate admissions team and the online and graduate teams and all of the graduate directors and chairs who have helped with that, and the online directors and chairs who have helped, and all of the various faculty members who have helped with undergraduate admissions. Basically what I'm saying is it takes all of us together to bring in these numbers. And at a time in higher ed where other institutions are not necessarily meeting their goals. So with that in mind, I'm going to hand things over first to our new Vice President, Stacy Ghetto.
Thank you, Dr. Cowart, and she may have borrowed a line from mine, but she didn't realize that. But it truly does take a college to make this happen. And a huge shout out and thank you, obviously, to the admissions team and to financial aid. But clearly it takes an entire university to make what has happened this year happen. Campus undergraduate enrollment. New first-year student enrollment remains steady compared to last year, but up over 2 years ago. As of this morning, we hit 100 transfer students, so we're up significantly. Our re-entry students making the outstanding decision to come back to us have increased as well. The landscape, while it continues to be a challenge, the strategies that have been in place over the past year and a half have clearly been working. We are excited to build on those for this upcoming year, and in addition to the numbers, the academic quality continues to improve. Thank you all for your efforts and support as we kick off. Believe it or not, we're kicking off the 2026 recruitment cycle. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Last time we saw you, most of you, it was May. So we're going to start with summer numbers just to kind of recap what happened while you were away. As you can see, online held fairly steady this past year. But I think it's important to consider, Stacy and I were talking the other day, since 2011, there's been an increase in online programs and an increase in schools that are offering online programs. So when we're talking about schools, there's been a 185% increase in schools who are offering online programs since 2011. So that accounts for the market and a lot of competition out there. But you'll see, as we look at our numbers, grad enrollment has slowed for the past 2 years, but we're holding steady. And we're actually, when we're looking at some of these numbers, we're ahead of where we were 2 years ago. So we did very well this summer. We can attribute some of the dips to Acadian being down, and if you see the traditional number is a little bit lower, it could be because we've moved to year-long scheduling, so students have a better sense of when they'll be able to pick up their classes and they don't necessarily need them over the summer. So that's wonderful for us. And then looking at our fall numbers, when you look at these numbers up here, I'd like to provide some context where undergraduate is fairly steady when you see the numbers. We have 2 blocks in the fall, so our classes run every 8 weeks, so our numbers are not final yet for 2025. As we're looking at 2023 and 2024, those are the final numbers where we ended in October. What you see up there for 2025 is where we are today. So we are still moving students through the funnel. I can tell you there are many students that are still trying to get into classes for August, and we are working very hard as a team to get them enrolled so they can start classes next week. And then we have 2 more months where we can enroll students because our second block doesn't start until October. So we are very encouraged by the number of students who are interested in both our online and graduate programs, and we're looking forward to a good year. Thank you.
And now, President Nelson.
So I'm about to invite to the stage Bob Wallet, Stephanie Isham, and Garrett Solomon. And we're going to give you an update on some things we talked about in April and May. We said we would do an update on the budget and also an ongoing update on major capital projects. So the team is going to come help us with that, but also we have some new and not some new faces here. I think we'll do Bob and Stephanie and Garrett, and then I'll sit here. So I thought it might be nice for you to get to know these folks a little bit more, and as well, we'll give you an update on the budget and on capital projects as promised. And a bit of context, by the way, on the enrollment management piece. We are, I think, Dr. Gato, it's right, we're about 3% above this time last year. And we want to note, last year was a really strong year for us enrollment-wise. We've continued the trend of growing over a number of years. We had a bit of a tricky situation this year to contend with, which you might have noticed that there's construction on campus. Just a little bit. Garrett will tell you more about that. Here was our struggle. We were taking Major Residence Hall, one of our largest halls, offline, and the question, and building a new hall, and preparing to take then another major hall offline next year. And our struggle was in a really challenging enrollment environment at a time when we're taking beds offline. How do we continue momentum on enrollment while not promising students something we couldn't deliver. And we thought if we really landed a large class far beyond what we've been doing, we're not sure where we would put them. And we didn't want to do that. And at the same time, we didn't want to curtail the momentum that we have. So it was really delicate. And I'll just say credit to Dr. Cowart, to the entire admissions recruiting team, to everyone involved in recruiting, and Dr. Gato's here now, but a big shout out to Asia for the work that she did leading admissions during this interim. Yeah. It was a really tricky thing to get this just right, and I think we're landing in a place, Stacy, where it's Goldilocks, right? It's just right, Dr. Cowart? It turned out about as well as I think it could. And just to let you know, that was a bit of a tightrope. It's been a bit of a tightrope act. We'll have to do that again next year, but we're not holding back, right, Dr. Gato? Like, from now on, it's full steam ahead on recruiting, and we're going to make it work, right, Garrett? We're going to make it work. And Justin, Tyler, wherever you are, the team of student affairs and facilities, we're going to work together, and they are working together. But just to give you an insight into that, some really good things are happening, and it bodes well for the future at a time when, frankly, a lot of schools are having a different conversation this August. But it's a bit tricky, and I want everyone to appreciate how tricky that is. And when you wonder what's happening during the summer, these teams are doing a whole lot of work to pull this off. So just a little follow-on to what's happening with enrollment there. So now to this session, and the idea here will be that I want you to get to know these folks a little bit, but also get a report on our financial situation and what's happening with major projects. So we're going to say a bit more about what are just ordinary capital projects that might get obscured by the big things happening, but are really important for the future of the institution. So a lot of ground to cover here, but I also want you to get to know these folks. So this is titled Some New and Not So New Faces, and that's because while Stephanie and Garrett came to us this spring, and Stephanie's face wasn't so new, but most of you didn't see her because she was our auditor, but we knew her. Bob Wallet was the CFO when I came here as president. And Bob was serving here in an interim capacity, and I pretty quickly asked him to stay longer than he had committed to, and he graciously did that. So we worked together for quite a while. And when in the early fall, our previous CFO let me know that she really wanted to return to New England to be near her family, which I perfectly understand. Fairly quickly, I made a call to Bob and said, I know you're kind of retired, but we'd like to unretire you and would love for you to come home to Catawba, and not as an interim, but just come back as vice president CFO. And pretty quickly, Bob, we decided that seemed like a good thing. And so for a number of you, you know Bob because he was here. Now, I will admit, most of that time was during COVID. And so you saw him with a mask, and we weren't all in person a lot, but you know Bob Wallet, and just welcome back, Bob. We're glad that you're here.
Thank you.
And then, as I said, Stephanie, we knew because she was leading our audit for the last couple of years, has been part of the Cherry Beckert team, and through some conversations, we realized she was really interested in what we're doing here, and we really liked the work that she did. And long story short, here she is now as our Associate Vice President for Finance, and we're really glad that you're here. And then Garrett came to us through a national search. Our Brailsford and Dunleavy, our owner representatives for all of our major projects, you've seen them around campus. They are helping us. They helped us get from the idea of building a new hall and renovating a bunch of stuff on campus to groundbreaking and the big mess we have on campus. B&D helped us get there. And in the middle of that, we just said we need a person with the talent and the experience to come help us, not just oversee everything happening with facilities with our partners at the Bud Group, but to make sure these major projects happen the right way. And that search brought us to Garrett Solomon, who's sitting here. We're really glad you're here as well. So welcome to all three of you. So we're going to do a little get to know you, and then we're going to jump into some updates here. So I hope you'll enjoy this. Bob, I'm going to start with you. Though you've been here previously, there are new faces, right? That's one thing you've noticed. There are a lot of new faces around here. So to each of you, the question is, tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you did before you came to Catawba. We'll start with you, and then we'll work down the row.
Well, how many hours do we have? As David said, I've been around a while, and higher ed is actually my third career. I graduated from the Air Force Academy in '76 and retired from the Air Force in 1997 after about 21 years as a civil engineering officer. Very enjoyable time to be in the service. Was able to spend almost 10 years overseas in Europe and throughout the Far East and Korea. So to be in the service, to see a lot of my career in the Air Force. After I moved back to Pennsylvania, which is where I come from, and we adopted our child there, and we're settling into Pennsylvania. I worked for the Pennsylvania Commission for my second career, and then our son was getting older. He'd be going to college at some point, so I transitioned to higher education in 2009. So for the past 16 years, I've been in higher ed. Kind of retired from higher ed, which is why you still see me walking with a cane. I think I was like this the first time I was down here, but it hasn't changed much in that regard. I joined a group called the Registry, which makes interim appointments at various locations. So since leaving Catawba the first time, I've had 4 other assignments with the Registry. I went from here to Chestnut Hill College in Philadelphia. Then I went to the Higher Ed Policy Commission in West Virginia, which is the kind of the, I guess you would call it their state system government entity. So you're actually part of the state government there. Was the CFO there for not quite a year, and then moved from there to St. Xavier University in Chicago for about a year and a half. Got extended there as well. And then from there, I was starting out at Butler. I was, as David said, I was driving out to Butler when I got this phone call on my cell phone in my truck, and David's contact was still in my phone, so I immediately answered the phone, and that's when he said, "Would you be interested in coming back to Catawba?" And I said, "You bet." You know, I didn't hesitate. I really liked it down here. And I said, "But there's one problem. I'm just starting out at Butler and have this thing called a contract that is going to be a little hard to get out of." So we worked it out, and after about 4 months at Butler, I was able to transition down here to Catawba. So that's kind of my life story in a nutshell, and I'm very happy to be back here at Catawba. It's a great place to work, great people, good environment, couldn't ask for more, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that later, so thank you.
Bob, you retired from the Air Force at what rank?
I retired as a lieutenant colonel. I was filling colonel positions at Scott Air Force Base and at the Pentagon, and decided they wasted enough time trying to promote me, and decided to retire. Yeah.
When you hear people address him with his military rank, you'll know now why that's the case. And also just want to note, for those of you new to Catawba, the history of this college is really tied to Pennsylvania. And just note, anytime a person from Pennsylvania is here, that there's a long time connection between Catawba College and Pennsylvania. So Stephanie, I hinted a bit at what you've done in the past, but tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here.
Sounds good. You took basically everything I was going to say, but
Sorry for that.
so I'm a CPA, and I started my career off right after college working in a public accounting firm. So I started doing taxes at I guess it's the world's largest accounting firm, so PricewaterhouseCoopers. After 2 years of doing that, I quickly realized that I did not like taxes, and that was not something I was interested in. So I would say most people probably in this audience would have figured that out a lot faster than 2 years. And so then I moved in to become an auditor. So ever since, I've been an auditor and working for nonprofit organizations. So the last 7 years, I specifically was working with colleges and universities and doing their audits. And then as David mentioned, I worked on the Catawba audit for the last 2 years. So, and then an opportunity came up, and one of my favorite questions, and I can't remember if it was David, Meg, or Monica who said, knowing everything that you know, why are you still interviewing for this position? Because there's just been a lot of turnover in the role. And so, and I'll say, I love rebuilding, kind of creating structure, policies, and then I love what Catawba, I see the potential, and I love what Catawba does and everything that they are doing. So it felt like a great opportunity for me.
I think one of the things that struck me, by the way, you said you graduated and then you went to work. You graduated from where?
Most UCF and then FAU.
Okay. So Florida. And one of the things that struck me about Stephanie's interest was, our financial situation has changed really quickly, and it's brought a set of challenges with it. And one of the things I appreciated is she saw those and thought, oh, we can do all of that and so much more. She saw all the potential and the opportunity in this place. But I think what really got me when I first started talking to Stephanie about the position was how quickly she talked about our mission and what we do and how that resonated with what she cares about. And that's what makes this place so special, is to have people like you who connect with the mission and what we're doing for students in the role that you have. So that stood out to me. So Garrett Solomon, you came in what month? Did you come in April?
It was April.
Yeah.
It was April, yeah.
And talk about jumping into it. But before we get to all that, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I went to school at Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida, where I received my bachelor's in architecture, and then I have a dual master's in architecture and facilities management. Fun fact, actually, for you and Dr. Burgess, wherever he is, I actually got a full ride playing tenor saxophone and alto saxophone at school. So do not sign me up for anything.
Well, now this, I have not heard this yet. And is Dr. Jones here, or is he out with the band? All right, we'll have to do something. There you go. All right.
I was also a drum major in the band and all that good stuff. So,
all right,
yeah.
There we go.
And then from there, I went to Scripps College in Claremont, California. I was there for 10 years. I served as facilities operations / campus architect for a minute, and then I was promoted to associate director of facilities planning and construction. So I was there for around 10 years, and then my wife and I, we had a 2-year-old. Well, of course, he was born, and now he's 2. And then it was just time to get back closer to home. So this kind of brought us back closer, and then ever since then, we have been excited. We don't have to buy expensive plane tickets anymore, and it's a nice, easy drive to get back home. But we are loving it here and enjoying the community.
When we ran this search, I told the folks at B&D, here's the profile, and from my experience, I would love it if you found someone who is trained in architecture, which is a fairly tall order, by the way, to find somebody with this set of skills, but here he is, including with the architectural training. So we're glad all of you are here. This one can be sort of a rapid-fire session, but We'll start with you, Garrett. Tell us what your portfolio is so folks out here know what it is you're responsible for.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the past 10 years, I have completed over $500 million worth of deferred maintenance and capital projects. Some of the larger projects were a $110 million science center and then another $50 million residence hall. And from there, rolling over here to Catawba, there's a lot of things, res halls and, a lot of deferred maintenance. This is definitely in my realm. And quite frankly, I think when I was interviewing, I didn't know exactly how much work. They said, yes, we have some projects going on. We have some donor money rolling in, but yeah, they really dropped it on me. So yeah, so thanks.
I think we named all the projects. But interestingly, as things happen around here, yeah, some things have emerged even since his arrival that are all good things, yeah, right. but make it even a larger portfolio. So you oversee all the major projects. Tell us, everyone knows, the Bud Group came to help us about 1.5 years ago, but what's your relationship to that operation, just so they understand that connection?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, I oversee all the facilities operations, and we are currently outsourcing to the Bud Group, and they currently oversee all of the maintenance, grounds, and housekeeping services. And so far, they have been great to work with. I know it's only been for 4 months, and so far, they're a pretty good, solid team.
So when you wonder who, that's outsourced, if you will, though a number of our former employees have gone to work for them, but Garrett is the person who is the overseer and works directly with their leadership. So if you're wondering who the direct liaison is, he's sitting right here. Stephanie, what's in your portfolio here at Catawba as the AVP of Finance? What all do you oversee?
Yep. My team and I work on everything that has to do with money. So we are paying bills, we are collecting money, budgeting, looking up restricted funds, so anything related to money, that's what my team does.
And besides the regular just budget management that any of the budget managers deal with, and they work directly with Stephanie, one of the things we're building that you'll see is the operation to manage our endowment and all of those funds. So hundreds of funds. I see Mindy is right there. And we've sort of done this between the development office and budget, but we are building out a proper apparatus for taking care of the many dollars that have been entrusted to us, so we're the best stewards of them possible. You'll hear a bit more about all of that later. And then, Bob, so just let them know what you're the Vice President for Finance and Administration, Chief Financial Officer. Briefly, what's in your portfolio? You oversee what?
Sure. The two people to my right are in my portfolio, facilities and finance and budget, et cetera. Then also HR, Lee Ellington, who was up here before, falls under my purview, as well as Casey Will in IT, and my capable assistant, Abby Burkhead, sitting over there in the corner. Okay, so those are my direct reports, and so if you have any issues in those areas that those individuals can't resolve for you and you need to bucket up the ladder, I'm the person, okay? Thank you.
So note that Lee and Casey, they do such good work for us, and so this morning I wanted to introduce the new faces to you in the portfolio of Bob Wallet. So we're going to start giving some updates, but I want to begin by asking Bob a question. Bob has a really unique perspective on Catawba College, and I think I and our board, I want to note, you can just go back to the main slide. We're not ready to see any of this yet. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Bob has a unique perspective, and I think I and our board members realized Bob was here at a pretty pivotal time in the history of the college that involved things like the restructuring of debt, which included covenants and managing all the responsibilities of that, a really challenging time in the history of the college, enrollment management. A number of budget cuts had been made, and then a pandemic hit. He was here at that pivotal time, and some other things that he'll probably note. And then several years later, he comes back. And it's not as if he never paid attention to what was happening at Catawba, because I think you did, but here you are now, and you have such a unique perspective on where we were 5, 6, 7 years ago and where we are now. I'm just curious, share with us what you're seeing from your chair.
Well, thanks, Dr. Nelson. Yeah, like I said, it's a pleasure to be back here, but there have been some very significant changes occurring on campus, all for the better, I would say. So overall, I've observed that it's a great time to be here at Catawba from the standpoint of activity and resources. I think we're in the midst of a very significant and positive transformation of the campus. Over the past 5 years, there's been a significant investment in people. I think about half the people in this room weren't here before, based on the slides that we saw. So big investment in our people, investment in our programs and student experience, our buildings, our infrastructure, environmental sustainability, and just the natural environment of the campus. So it is a great time to be here, and you must ask, why are we doing this, right? Why are we doing all this? Because we believe there is a direct correlation between the quality of the built, natural, and cultural environment and the performance of people. So we're doing it to improve the performance of Catawba College. That axiom implies that improvements in the quality of campus life, including our physical environment, our academic programs, student engagement, our administrative processes, and opportunities for personal growth will result in a high-performing staff, faculty, and students. So that's the gist of what we're trying to do. And how were we able to do that, right? How did that come about? Well, last time I was here, let's just say to start, the revenues have more than doubled for operations since the last time I was here. So I would say back then it was more existential. Now it's not existential, it's how do we make best use of the resources we have. The revenues have doubled. That has largely been due to the endowment. There has been some growth on the student revenue side, but by and large, the major portion of that has been due to our good fortune relative to the endowment. On the expense side, 5 years ago, our operating budget was about 25 to 28 million, depending on which numbers you pulled out of it. You'll have a look later here of the current budget, but it's now approaching 60 million. So in that sense, our budgets have grown and significantly, and unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, our expenses have grown to match that budget, okay? The endowment itself has grown from about $100 million, well over $600 million now, so that is unbelievable growth in the endowment. And our student revenues have fluctuated, but in general have increased over time. So how has that additional revenue been spent? You heard some of that from Garrett here and others, but our operating expenses have also increased to nearly match those increases in revenue. Payroll and benefits have increased over 70%, and that's good reason for that. We needed additional people to do what needed to be done and to do things properly. I would also say, though, that the departmental and programmatic expenses have grown over 200%. So we are investing in our programs, in our students, and our people. So it's very important that we do that. During this time, we were also able to pay off our debt, as Dr. Nelson had indicated. We didn't have, really bad long-term debt. It was about $18 million at the time I left, which is not unusual. It's actually relatively low for some of the places I've been. But we were able to pay that off, so we have no long-term debt, and that is significant moving forward. As Garrett will speak to later, we've also been making significant improvements to our facilities, and that will continue. So these were some of the major things that have occurred since I was here last. I would say we're much better off financially than we were 5 years ago, and our challenge now is to prudently manage those resources and control our spending so that we can remain financially strong. You might wonder, what are the keys to financial strength? I'm sure you all have your own thoughts on that, having worked in higher education. But from my perspective, the keys to that, number one is, most importantly, is to operate within your means, okay? And what does that mean? That means you have a positive operating margin at the end of the year. Your revenues have exceeded your expenses, and you have surplus at the end of the year. That's the best way to stay financially strong. However, you have to maintain sufficient, if not significant, reserves to be able to operate when the problems happen. If you have unexpected crisis, or if you have a curtailment in your revenue stream, either that could either be a pandemic like COVID, or it could be something else. And we also want to be able to make capital improvements without borrowing in the future. So where does that money have to come from? It has to come from our operating surpluses that we're able to tuck away and use for more strategic purposes later. Diversification of revenue streams. You could say we were kind of one-dimensional back in 2020, 2021. The bulk of our revenues came from students. So when you didn't have the ability to pull in the numbers you needed to match your expenses, there's not much you could do about it. Or if there would be a huge dip in the number of students, again, could be a pandemic, could be something else, but then you're in trouble financially and you have to find ways to cut back unless you have reserves that you can count on. So you need to have reserves. We mentioned long-term debt. That can be an albatross for some institutions. It is certainly not a problem here. We talked about the endowment, but we also need to continue to grow our student funding, growth in recruitment, enrollment, retention, and graduation rates continue to be important, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to show growth in those areas and offset the need to rely totally on the endowment. What concerns do I have coming back? We have created an opportunity fund. It's relatively small at this point, so we must continue to contribute to that fund as time goes on, and as I mentioned, that has to occur by creating operating surpluses. Our margins are getting tighter in recent years, so we need to keep an eye on that and make sure that we're going to be investing in the future. Another point to make that you may not be aware of is market fluctuations now affects our operating revenues, since we are drawing significant operating revenues from the endowment. If the market drops 20%, we lose about $5 million in operating revenue that year. So if we have a market crash, we need to have something to fall back on, and that would be any reserves that we might be able to set aside during the good years, okay? So we need to manage that and keep an eye on it. And as I mentioned before, we need to improve revenues from students to help meet those future needs as well. So you all play a great role in doing those things, and that's why I caution here, as we've been able to do a lot of work, get things done, but unlike some people want to think, our resources are not unlimited. We need to watch our spending. We need to control our spending, and that's why we're here to try to make sure that occurs moving forward, and we're able to sustain ourselves moving forward. I've gone on too long, but in summary, I think Catawba College is currently in a very strong financial position, and we need to be good stewards of those financial resources and ensure we can continue to invest in our future without taking out debt. Okay, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Bob. There's a lot more about Bob's perspective of what he's seeing that he can't take the time to share now, but it's invaluable to all of us. I want to note he's echoing something we talked about in April and May, right? That we're in a really strong position, but we really want to increase the margins we have every year so we can have more reserve, more funds for opportunities in the future. And if something were to happen to the market, it's a contingency against that. So he's echoing what we talked about before he arrived in the spring, but it's just common sense for us to think about it this way. So Stephanie, we're going to turn. That was a good segue. We're going to turn to you, and she's going to show you a lot, but this isn't the last time you'll hear from Stephanie. And partly what I'd like for you to do is you've begun a newsletter and all of that. She wants to be able to communicate with you, and so if you could talk a little bit about how people can connect with you and all of that. But she's going to give us just an update, and let me tell you what I asked her to do a quick look at the overall financial statement of the college. I realize that's not something everyone in this room looks at all the time, but I'd like for you to see it. Then this year's budget, she's going to give you a quick pass at that, and then some trends that she's seeing, and then take it from there. Stephanie.
Sounds good, thank you. I tried to get away with 2 slides, but David kept adding to the slides and making my part a little longer than I'm
Again,
comfortable with.
I'm so sorry, but not.
And of course, they're out of order, so, ooh, we don't have our slides. We don't have them, so I
don't know how that happened.
I'll talk you through it, so bear with me, and I know it's finances, so
and then we can shoot this out to you so you can see it.
So I'm always scared to talk in front of people because who wants to talk finances, and I tend to talk accounting, and then people just, their eyes glaze over. But as of May 31st, so the good news is our balance sheet, which is a point in time, so that's as of May 31st, and it shows all your balances of the university. And so we had a cash position of $56 million. We had investments of $664 million. We have fixed assets of $106 million, receivables of roughly $6 million, and a big portion of that is some funding we're due from the government. And then some just other assets of $3.6 million. So that gives us, your total assets are $836 million. So a very, very strong balance sheet and assets.
So let me ask a couple of questions
Yes.
that are in the minds of some folks hearing this. Cash position of 50 plus million.
Yep.
That's really good news. Most of that is what?
A lot of that will be going to our construction.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's about $40 million in the cash position is going to those future projects, the new dorm renovation. So a lot of that is held aside because as we referenced before, you see all this construction on campus, but none of it is funded through debt. So all of it has been funded through just very, very generous donors. So we take that money, we put it aside so that when those bills come up, we're paying for it and not taking on any debt.
So I want everyone to appreciate that. I have shared this news with the families of incoming students, that they see all this construction, and I let them know that we're doing it with no debt. We had the mother of a student in orientation number 1 who didn't believe that. I can actually understand why. By the way, the reason I'm telling people this is because there's a lot of unease, as you can imagine, with the closing of some institutions in the Southeast in the past 6 months. People worry about these things, and so we're talking about even how to put some of these statements out so families can see this and know that we're not making this up, that we're doing all of this without debt. The Opportunity Fund Bob mentioned is tucked into that cash. That's a little under $6 million. We're playing with the number we think we want for that, but it's more than double that. So I want to put this in perspective. When Bob is saying we have to put more money aside, part of it is to just build that fund so that should the market go down, Stephanie is not having a coronary because she knows we have money to help get through the next year, which allows us to do it without making cuts, okay? So carry on. And then you said investments of over 600. Tell us what those investments are.
So majority of the $600 million in investments is what we keep referring to as the endowment. And so just for those who might not know all accounting terms, the endowment is a pot of money that donors have given. And so you're never allowed to use the money. They give it to you and you invest it. And all you're allowed to use is the earnings from those investments and a percentage of that, and that is the piece that you're allowed to use. So yes, we've gotten $600 million, but that's not a pot of money that we can just keep drawing upon. We're only allowed to use that percentage. And that's important because that helps preserve the school for history. So
it really is a generational change for the institution to have that much in endowment. I forgot to ask about the cash, over $50 million. And it was higher than that as before we started all the building projects. Where does that money sit, and does it earn anything?
The cash, we have it invested conservatively since it is going to be used, but it is making and earning money. I think last year it made about $1 million. So yes, we have money in cash, and that is considered a lot of money to have in cash, but it is earning a good bit of interest, and we're putting that back into as a reserve for our construction. And construction always has overages.
Yeah, so we have a contingency on every one of our construction projects. As Garrett will tell you, it's just good practice. We're keeping that earned interest as a second contingency. And when some of you pay attention to the news and you worry about the effects of, say, tariffs on things like buying steel, we know we're going to have extra money, and that the earnings from that, not all of that interest is on that money, some of it's on other funds, but all of it tied to the building projects is being held in reserve for a second contingency for the building projects. Tell us a bit about the FY26 budget. Give us the big numbers, and then we can send that to folks, and they can see if they have any questions for you.
Sounds good. So the big numbers. So we are net tuition should be around $18 million. So that's your gross revenue minus the scholarships you plan on awarding. And that's about 32% of the total revenue we expect to receive. We have, let's say, $30 million we're expecting to get from endowments. And that makes up about 55% of our total revenue or expected revenue. Then we get a lot of money from restricted funds, and so we're expecting about $6 million. Interest and miscellaneous income of $1 million, and then some unrestricted fundraising of $500,000, which makes up 1%, for a total of $57 million in revenue that we're expecting to bring in this year. And that's considered a pretty conservative budget, so all accountants like to be conservative and make sure we're in a good position, and so that's, like I said, expected to be pretty conservative. So we've also been fairly conservative with our expenses, and that's what we keep talking about as being good stewards and making sure we have good spending habits. but our budgeted expenses for the year, salaries, wages, and benefits, is about $30 million. So that's 56% of the budget for expenses. And then department and programmatic expenses would be 38%. Then we have capital spending, about $2 million, and some other endowment spending for various programmatic kind of expenditures is about 1.7, which is another 3%.
Yeah, so a couple of markers. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the capital spending that Stephanie was referring to is operating funds. It's unrelated to all the projects that Garrett is going to be talking about. And that pays for the smaller projects that we have to do annually, and is really the capital funding source for the whole campus, in the sense that it needs to take care of all the capital needs, not just the facility needs. So,
Yeah, I want to point out something. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh, I was going to say, yes, the budget is really how to operate baseline the university. So if we get more donor dollars, those are all for special and extra things. But what I just went over is truly to kind of how do we operate the university with what we have for the next year.
I want to illuminate a couple of things. She mentioned the conservative revenue budget. So that sits at $57 million this year. Bob commented the FY21 budget that I came in under had revenues of how much?
about 28.
Yeah, it's a little under about 27. It's more than doubled. And I just want everyone to appreciate that. And the reason it's more than doubled is the generosity of our donors. Now, we have gained some on tuition revenue, and I just want to note, Buster, I know you've paid attention to this. She said 18 million. Those of you that have looked at the budget in the past will think we've lost revenue. You haven't. Those numbers you used to see included the scholarship funding, and it added in any given year $3.5 to $4 million. So add that 3.5 to 4, and you would have an apples to apples to your budgets in the past. We've stopped counting it that way, so we simply see the actual net revenue off of tuition, room, and board. So it's grown some, but you'll hear me note later, the future is building the margins of that tuition, room, and board and other revenues, non-endowment revenues. Now listen, we'll take every endowment dollar we can that fits our mission, I'll say, but it's our responsibility to really grow that revenue line for the future. A lot hangs on that, and that is enrolling the right students, retaining them, and helping them to be successful. And then there's some interesting inside baseball on that, on our unfunded scholarship strategy in the past, which meant that our tuition revenues off the students we have is lower than it should be. We're enormously generous with scholarships. I think we've concluded too generous, and we'd rather have funded scholarships and less unfunded. There's some really good news baked into the class that is trending in exactly the way we want, probably better than I would have expected at this point, but we need to keep that trend going. And then the points of a bit of pressure you see Bob and Stephanie with it, I'd like for that to be different. It is definitely trending in the right direction. It's definitely trending in the right direction, but more work to be done on that. So now you've got some fun charts. Teach us a little bit here, Stephanie.
Let me go to one of my fun charts. This is Catawba over 5 years. So the bar graph portion of this chart is looking at your endowments. So we keep talking about endowments and how we've grown. This chart is really trying to show how we've grown over the last 5 years. So you can see just where we started in 2021 with a $100 million endowment balance, and then we've grown it all the way to $600 million. All these other lines are various, it shows you how our various expenses have gone up also over the last few years. As our endowment has grown, all of our expenses have grown. So if you look at the orange line, that's our labor. You can see our labor has grown. The green line is our fixed assets and repairs. That's Garrett's space and how that's grown, and we've done a lot of our deferred maintenance. You look at the blue line, that's our program, anything that those are expenses for anything that meets our programs. And then facilities also is the purple line, and then in green, a light green line, is our annual endowment allowed draw. So this is that percentage I said that we can pull from every year from our endowment. I'll say the last year, 2025, is higher than normal, and that is because our donor who gave the biggest portion of our endowment allowed us to take a quarter extra of draws. So this is a little higher than normal. So if you were to see this graph all the way through 2026, you would see it go down a little bit. And that was just because the donor allowed us and to help fund some of these capital projects.
Yeah, I explained this in the spring, but I'll reiterate it, that one of our donors came to us and asked if the distribution of the endowment funding for a portion of the endowment could be an advantage if we took that draw differently. And the idea was, the donor's hope was that we would accelerate, and this is funny because we're already moving so fast, but accelerate capital improvements. And my answer to that was, I would never say no to that because so much hinges on those capital improvements. Now that means this man has the pressure with his team of putting that money to work, and we want to do that without killing ourselves. And we admit our pace has been too fast, but I think we're getting to the right equilibrium. But that additional distribution was large, almost all, well, probably every dollar went into those kinds of accelerating capital projects, some of which you feel and see, and some of which you don't, because a lot of it is infrastructure. But that's all cash going to capital improvements that very few institutions get to do at one time like we did. So just truth in advertising, that number won't always be that big. This year is a bit of an anomaly because of that infusion of cash. I should also note, you made a point on the budget that I should have explained a bit more. Well, actually, Bob drew it out on the capital budget. When you see that budget in the past, those of you that have paid attention to these documents, almost all our capital budgets in the past have been restricted funds. Donors have given the money to do the projects. One of our big goals in the past 3 years has been to fund capital projects out of our operating expenses, which is what we should do. That's what a mature institution does. A certain amount of depreciation every year should just be funded in capital projects. So that is cash from the operating expenses this time. And then there's all of this other, the major projects going on from donor funds that Garrett's going to tell you about in just a moment. So I just wanted you to know that's a big step forward for us as an institution. That's a big change, Bob, from 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. It's a really good thing for us, and it's easy to pass by that in the budget. Stephanie mentioned it, but I just wanted to reiterate that. Tell us more.
Tell us more, okay. These next two slides are exciting things for an accountant, but these are our key business office dates. So if you're curious about the budget process, we're kind of changing up how we're doing it this year. So I mentioned having a conservative budget. So in October, we're doing a relook at our budget, and we're going to see, was it conservative, how our enrollment numbers are shaking out, how things are shaking out, and at that point, we'll readjust our budget numbers and hopefully have some wins where we'll have more money to play with and more money to put back into the university. But so you'll see us do that in October, and if there's any changes, VPs will know about them if there's any changes to the budget. And then this year we're starting our budget process much earlier, so that kicks off in November. And then we're actually going to be presenting the budget in January to all the VPs, and then we present it to the board in March. So those are kind of our key budget dates.
If anyone had a question about this process, could they email you about that?
They could email me or Amber.
Okay, or Amber Tompkins, who helps with the budget process. A couple of times now we've mentioned conservative budgeting on the revenue side. Let me explain that. When we looked at enrollment, you saw the numbers that Dr. Gato shared with you earlier. We budgeted for a number lower than what you saw, So we could likely have increased revenues there. We also chose a conservative number for the endowment distribution. Some might say it was too conservative. I don't think it was. We decided we wanted to build a budget based on conservative revenue projections, and those two are our biggest revenue drivers, and we went conservative on both of them. We've done that for the past few years. We're going to continue to budget that way. We just think it's responsible to do so. If we have additional funds, you heard me say this in the spring, unless the team convinced me to do otherwise, we would really just put those into reserve and into that opportunity fund. We think at this time in the life of the college and in our economic environment, it's the best thing to do. Just so you know, if you see that revenues are better than projected, don't think we're going to start giving more money out. We're going to put that money away.
Okay, my last slide. So if you are a budget manager or want to look up your budget, there is a new way to do it. So I think in the past, people used, is it Argos? So we've deactivated that report. So if you want to look up your budget, you're going to go to the Catawba homepage and go to My Finance modules and the financial dashboard, and then do My Finance Query. And you should see a really nice report that will break out all your revenues and expenses that are assigned to you or that you manage. And then you can actually drill down all the way to the invoice level on those expenses. So this is a new way to look at it and to find your budget. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. And then I have my newsletter, so I'm sure a lot of it's going into everybody's delete inbox, but that's a newsletter that comes out once a month, and it has a lot of these links, helpful tips, who to reach out. You can always reach out to me, but it also kind of tells you some of my other team members of who to reach out to.
And what's the name of it?
The Bean Counter Chronicle.
Yeah,
that is what my husband calls me, is
you
the
might
Bean Counter.
check in spam for the Bean Counter Chronicle. Those of you that are interested in knowing about what's going on with finances, she's going to give you an update every month, and you can connect with her with questions you have. This slide, I know that you might think, some of you are thinking, the most boring thing ever. I need everyone to understand what an enormous step forward. I see heads nodding because these are budget managers who suffered through Cognos and then our improved Argos, which wasn't. And now this has happened. And by the way, when I was told by some people this would take a year or more to do, you came when?
June.
Yeah. And here we are. Applause for Stephanie and her team getting this done. There are more improvements to come, but this is a big step forward for those who have to keep the reins on budgets. So thank you. We could keep talking, but I'm watching my watch, and we have to let Garrett get in here so we can do capital improvements. But do you have any final comments?
No, I don't. I'm glad for my part to be done.
You're glad to be done. She doesn't love getting up in front of everybody, and I made her do this. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Garrett, just take it away. Tell us what's happening. We can see fences, and I had the joy the other day of watching the tractor start to take the roof off the south side of the standback hall, and I really wanted to get on there and drive the truck, but I didn't. But there's a lot happening, but there's also a lot we can't see. So give us the update, and then let us know how we'll be getting updates from you as well.
Absolutely. So as President Nelson said, the campus is one big dirt pile right now. Right now, we currently have 5 current projects taking place right now and 1 pending. We have the smokestack, which was targeted of fall of 26, Standback Hall, fall of 26, SR, fall of 27, Newman Park, that is currently pending, New Res Hall, fall of 26, and the District Energy Project, summer of 26. All right, so I'm going to go through each project. I know I don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to try to go through each one. So New Res Hall, that's currently next to Woodson, where the parking lot used to be located, is currently going to be a $130 upperclassmen housing program. Is around a total of 42,000 square feet. We have currently put in all the infrastructure on the site. Luckily, we were able to do that all before the rain hit for almost a month. So that's good. If you go by the site, you'll see a core of the building. That's actually the elevator core. And with any construction, that means, the project is about to start just going fast. So once the core is in place, then you're going to really start seeing walls and everything start to go up. So when you see that happening, it's exciting times. Oh, and then also this building has the Passive House certification that we're striving for. Okay, so stand back. Kind of like David said, right now we're currently doing some demo. So excuse all the noise going on. They currently already tore down the left wing of the building, and they're currently working on the right wing. We had to do a lot of abatement because these buildings are older, so we had to do a lot of abatement and clean it all up. So right now we did the abatement, now we're doing the demo, and then after the demo, you'll start to see that the two wings start to come back into place. But the great thing about actually coming in and doing all these buildings is that we were able to do a lot of ADA accommodations. So all these buildings will have ADA suites, we'll have ADA ramps, we'll also have elevators in these buildings, which we didn't have before. Okay, SR, which will be taking place in May coming up, it's the same thing. We will have to do a lot of abatement for the building. We're going to shell it out and then reconfigure a lot of the rooms to make them ADA accessible. Right now, we're currently in the last phase of investigative work, just trying to make sure that we have accounted for all the infrastructure in place. And then I know we're gonna have to meet with Dr. Owens in the back and give him a run through of the space as well. So if he has any kind of input, he can do that. But we're projected to start in May of 26. Okay, smokestack. So I know that this project has been pushed back for a while, but maybe they are putting up the fencing right now. So we are actually going to get started in the next couple of weeks. So we're putting up the construction fence now, and we're going to start doing some infrastructure work around the building and getting ready to start with demo. And then hopefully we'll get started on construction in November of this year. Newman Park. So even though this project is still pending, some good news is we actually have the building permit for it. So I know Mindy's here somewhere. So as soon as we get the rest, then we can get started. But the good thing is we actually have a grant to go ahead and get started on infrastructure work for the project. So we are currently working with the edifice team and the architects as well to try to go ahead and get a lot of things in place and get the ball rolling on the project. All right, and then actually this is actually to me, because I'm a big deferred maintenance infrastructure guy, is this district energy project. We were able to add around 150 geothermal wells that will actually tie in to pretty much almost every building on campus except for Hedrick, Cannon, and I think that's pretty much it. So this actually is going to extend our loop around campus and make it a closed loop system. This is huge for us. That way we can get off of these open loop systems where we're getting like a lot of, we lose like a lot of energy based off those systems. But so now having this closed loop system, we'll be able to save a lot more, and it'll kind of put us in the forefront of what we want to do in the future as far as building new buildings. And if you see, you'll see some crews around campus in several different spots on like these little, these machines. They're actually doing the horizontal lines for the geothermal system. So we'll be building a pump house that is right next to the ticket booth, like right across from volleyball. That pump house will have 4 main pumps that will pretty much get the water from the well fields over to the village, SR, Abernathy Gym, Hurley, and Williams Music. And that was the major capital.
Now before we go back to that one slide, District Energy, Garrett, how many institutions in higher education have a system like this?
Not too many. We're actually, with the amount of wells we have, I think we're number one.
Yeah, I think Catawba and Swarthmore might be your prime places. They're a bit ahead of us on this. I like being in the lead on this. Stephanie, I bet some people are wondering about the government rebates on all of this. Any update on whether or not we still get rebates on the geo exchange projects here?
We are still getting some rebates for these projects, and so I think there's going to be a time period where it ends, but we are still, all these projects will fit into the time period that's still open where we're getting rebates. So I think we're about to file for one return, and I think we get about $900,000 in rebates for all these projects.
Yeah, this
And that's
with
only one.
with a lot of the changes that happened with IRA, this was maintained. We talked to our senators quite a lot about how important this was, and they really went to bat for us. And so, important thing. This is a place where we're sort of the trendsetter. It's good for clean air, clean water, clean land. It's good for all of those reasons. It also long-term saves a lot of money. Just so everyone gets a scope of it, this is over a $20 million infrastructure investment with no debt. These projects are almost always done with debt. It's a really amazing thing that your college is doing this. And I know you don't get to see all the pipes running around, but
Yeah.
we will have, I know Dr. Ball and Garrett have planned some interesting ways for you to see what's happening with this.
Yeah, actually, you are right. So over at the pump house, we want to make that into an educational opportunity. So you'll be able to go into the pump house, you'll be able to see all the pumps running, you'll be able to see the VRFs to kind of see how much capacity these pumps are running at. So I think that would be great for the community.
Kimberly and I saw this in a town in Germany a couple of summers ago, and when we started doing this, I said, we have to do this. It's so cool to get to go see how it all works. All right, now carry on with the other thing, and I won't say that I'm going to stop interrupting because I won't.
Right. Okay, so everything else that happened this summer. So I want to give a big shout out to the Bud Group, who has definitely helped with a lot of the work here, and then also the Res Life team as well. They have been excellent partners with the students that have been here this summer and kind of having to shift them around, so they have been great to work with. So yeah, you can kind of see we kind of been very busy. Some good news is that we were able to refresh around 80 to 85% of our res halls here. And I think that is huge going into the school year. So
Everyone take that in. What percentage of res halls were refreshed this summer?
80 to 85%. Yeah, so we were able to go through each of the res halls, new paint, flooring. A lot of them received new windows, blinds, and then also we did replace several of the HVAC units in a lot of the spaces. So when the students go back into these spaces, that they will actually, like I said, I told my staff is that when we're going through and renovating and refreshing these spaces, just imagine your kid moving in and treat it as such. Also, some exciting stuff is the Cannon Student Center. When you walk through the doors, you'll see there's all new furniture in there in the Leonard Lounge area. And then also, if you go in the game room, there's all new furniture in there as well. And right now, I think we just wrapped up painting. And then I worked with Noah. I don't know if he's here or not, but, I see him, yeah. So they have a solar racing team, and we were able to get the solar racing graphics, so that will be kind of right there as soon as you walk in. So I think that'll kind of be pretty cool when students come back. And then we did some roofing. Oh, the problem child, Kettner. Yeah, we did some roofing. So Kettner has a new roof. Some background on Kettner is that in the past, there was an old roof, and then somebody added another roof, and then they did another roof. So now we pretty much tore off
on top of each other,
on top of
which
each other, yes.
you're not supposed to do. Just so you know.
Yep. So we did that, and then we also did some flooring in there, but there's a couple of things that happened this summer, Murphy's Law, and then now we're pretty much going to be ready for Kettner. Let's see, what else? We were able to do some work over at Williams Music. We did some new flooring there, and then the tennis courts as well. We added a new roof over at the tennis house with some paint, some steps, and some landscape improvements around it. And then other than that, all of our off-campus properties, we were able to go in and renovate all the houses. So we did a lot of work this summer, and hopefully I know the students will be excited. And we actually gave them full access to our work order system. So we will see how our work turned out. So I'm excited. Hopefully the students are excited, and everybody else is excited as well.
I'll point out the village, just so everyone knows, Abernathy Village over by the gymnasium, that set of buildings, apartment style. I can already tell you some of the students getting in there, they love the improvements there. Also, I think it's 18 of the houses around campus where we are housing students. Those are all renovated. I'm glad to say the neighbors at a community meeting are very happy with the improvements we've made to those properties. We had a meeting late spring. We let them know that students are moving in. I expected that to have some concerns. It doesn't. Actually, our neighbors are really glad students will be living there. They're also glad that we're taking care of the lawns and not students. But this is a place where it's just being a good neighbor, right? We're taking better care of our properties. I can also say that we expect this to be temporary, but I'm not sure students will want to move out of those houses once they're in them. They're pretty nice. And I think the happiness quotient from people who've already moved in is high. They like the look of all these improvements. Take a look at that list. Bob and I have done this a long time. I think we could tell you that's probably a lot for any institution to do in a couple of 3 years. It all got done in a very short period of time. So when you see that we put a lot of cash into these things, it was to do all of this that improves the lives, the experience of our students, especially immediately. And for many institutions, they're wondering when could they do these kinds of things? We've been able to do them really fast. This helps us serve our students better. It's certainly going to help retention. And I just always prefer a student to be able to put all of their energy in doing well in Dr. Smith's class rather than worrying about the water problem in their room or whatever other problem in the room. That they can be focused on the work that they've come here to do, and these investments are designed to do just that. Mindy, are you around? Yeah, I think I'm going to say this, I don't want to get in trouble, but he has down at the bottom that we added new storage in RCCC. It sort of dropped off there. We will have some good news soon about some improvements to this building. Just giving you a little teaser there, Dr. Burgess and others, that we have some good news coming about the building that we're sitting in. Anything else you want to add there?
I think that's it.
So I've made them sit up here for a long time, and I think what I'm going to do is you all hang out. Folks might have questions for you, but they can also email you and ask questions. They welcome questions because I know we need to wrap up, but I want to ask each of you a final question. What can we do to help you in your work here?
I would basically say don't sit on things or be concerned about bringing things forward. We want to hear what the issues are so we can take corrective action and move forward. Okay, so you can help me do my job by keeping me informed as to what deficiencies and issues you have, and we'll try to correct them. Yeah.
Say almost the same thing, but in a different way. My big top priority is kind of communication and timeliness, and so just like Bob said, it's finding out what you need, and if you don't let us know, I don't know what you need, so it's just coming into our office, communicating what your needs are so we can help support you, because my team is a support, and we're trying to support you in the best way. So just getting us some information and letting us know what you need.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing as well. But, just being new here, just really kind of getting some, institutional background. So if you see me walking through the halls, like, hey, by the way, there's like 3 storage rooms in here. It's like, oh, wow, okay, cool. And I mean, it's just stuff like that kind of really helps me know exactly, how the campus functions for you. And then that way I can better kind of implement in the future for your spaces as well.
Yeah, so I note this, having worked with Bob before and understanding how he works, but also in the short time I've worked with Stephanie and Garrett, they're keenly interested in understanding the college, knowing you, and thinking about how we can make this place work best for everyone who works here and for everyone that serves our students. They really mean that. And when I asked them, this wasn't planned, but when I said, how can I help? Their answer was, well, help us know how to help you. That's the kind of people they are. So we're really glad that you're here. Thank you for taking the time and putting up with me interviewing you so that we could get some of this information out. And we appreciate you hanging out and hearing whatever questions people might have after we dismiss in a few moments. Let's say thank you to this team. I'm going to play another role over here as they exit the stage. One of the things I wanted to mention is we knew from the spring, and we know this fall, we've talked about making the good mess across campus with all of these construction projects. And the answer to the question, why would we do so much major capital improvement at one time, is because we can. And we're doing a lot. It's not the most I've ever seen done at one time, but it's pretty close. And I want to note a couple of things. Stacy, I think you've seen this too. On the recruiting side, it is very interesting. It is not a surprise to me, but prospective students and their families see this as a real positive. We spend a lot of time at orientation telling people, you're about to walk into a big mess. It's going to be disruptive, and there are just going to be some headaches, and we're sorry for it, but you're going to benefit from it later on. I don't know of a single family that said we don't like the sound of that. They're excited about the future. And Bonnie, I see you nodding your head. You're the front door. I think you're hearing and seeing the same thing from our prospective students. And I'm glad they feel that way. I think it will be easy for all of us, while we're excited about the improvements, to get distracted by the headaches. Parking. The fact that I can't walk from here to there without getting mud on my shoes, or I have to go around something I didn't have to go around before. We can all say we'll be fine with it, but we'll get tired of it, right? And that's fine, because we will get tired of it, and it will be a headache, and there will be some annoyances, and then it will be done. And we'll be really glad that we got to be here for it. So I'll just ask, be charitable and kind with all the frustrations, and tell us what they are. We'll see how we can improve it. Already heard Lee, we need to make sure students don't park in Hoke. That's for faculty. We need to make sure students don't. So we'll take care of those things. Just let us know, and we'll take care of them. But please, let's be kind and charitable. Speaking of parking, if you didn't see this announcement, if it got buried in your email, go find it. NOAA, Center for the Environment, the whole team, thank you for making this work. This is an Uber-like shuttle service for all of us. It's through a partnership with one of a Catawba alumnus. These are EV vehicles. You can see how they're branded. This is in part to take care of students who are being relocated off campus at Hood, but we thought, why not try this out as a broader service? And so we'll have some people parking over at Kettner, at the Food Lion, some people down at Hood, but also a service to get around town. And one thing I'm excited about is our students like to get to other parts of town, but they don't all have a way to do it. Now they have a safe way to do it. So we're piloting this year. It's pretty unique, and just you might want to take advantage of it as well. So unbury the email that went out, a couple of days ago or so about Catawba Go, and take advantage of it. And when you hear students say they need to get around, let them know that this is here for them to use. They can get the app and call up a ride. So be aware of that. A couple of other things before I hit some save the dates. And what we'll do is we'll dismiss. I know you need to get off to other things, but Stephanie, Garrett, Bob will be around here. I'll hang out as well in case you have any questions. But I want to make a couple of comments about the conversation that we just had to put things in perspective. I said this briefly, but I want to reiterate it. When the financial position of the college changed, we realized we had an opportunity to do something, and we talked with the donors who helped us along these lines. We were in a position 5 years ago where, thinking about the future, I feel like we had really good prospects for doing a lot of things, growing enrollment, really securing the identity of the institution, living the ideal of scholarship with character and culture for service and making that the center of everything we do, recruiting the right students to be here with the already excellent faculty and staff we had, and that we could grow enrollment over time and begin to invest in our facilities, take care of a lot of deferred maintenance, which when I got here we did an estimate in 2021 of the baseline was 80, but that was really more like 120 or 130, Bob, and then we know in real costs it's even more than that. And I think you'll see some data when we get it all together. The amount of work that's being done, not just on major projects, but the other capital projects knocking off deferred maintenance, it's close to $150 million in about 4 years of time. Just take that in. That is a lot. And a lot of schools, and we were doing it, making a plan that would take many years to get to the place that we thought we should. And what happened is some very generous people said, well, what if we could do that faster? And what if we could rebuild the employee base, faculty and staff, so that we actually have enough people to serve the student population we want? And what if we could start attacking deferred maintenance at a really quick pace and then make major capital investments? And the answer to that question was the generosity that made that endowment figure that Stephanie showed you go from what was, I think, $66 million in 2019, 2020, Bob, to over $600 million today. And for some schools, it's you build the enrollment and then you get to do those things. Or we're going to roll the dice and we're going to borrow a bunch of money and do some of those things and hope we can build the enrollment. And instead, supporters of this college said, no, we believe in that ideal. We believe in the faculty and staff of this institution and what it's done and what it will do in the future, and we're willing to make the investment in the institution. And so we have grown our employee base. We've invested in people. We've invested in facilities. We've done those things, and again, without borrowing a penny. It's one of the a retiring president from an institution that you'd know if I called its name told me this may be the most unique story in American higher education in the past 25 years, if not longer. He's probably right about that. It at least is one of the most unique stories. And we all get to be a part of it, and we get to be stewards of it. And when we look at all of those changes that have happened, the budget tells the story along those lines. And now, think about Dr. Gato, have around 1,200 undergraduate residential students. We are built for, when that new hall is open and these renovations are done, we're built for 1350 or 1370, still requiring our first 3 years on campus. The same residential education that we all are here to do, we're built for that. We've built out the size of our faculty and staff to accommodate that. What we've done is we've done all that first. Now, it's to recruit the classes that are a bit bigger, not a lot bigger, but a bit bigger, of some 350 or so. Dr. Cow's still working out the exact number on that. And so that every year we have the right students coming, retaining at the right rate, graduating at the right rate and at the right time, right, in the ways that are most beneficial for those students. We're built now to do this, and it's our happy job together, our happy calling to over the next few years, get to those numbers in all of the right ways. So I'm glad to be a part of it with you. I want you to understand what you are a part of. There's a lot happening in the next days, and I want to highlight a couple of things, and then I'm going to call Mindy and Maddie up to tell you about something we really want you to know about. So just the Welcome Week is this week, all kinds of student activities that will be happening. I know you'll be involved in those. What's up next? New student commissioning. Just remember, we moved this to the night time so everyone can come and we do it all together. Then opening convocation next Tuesday. The new sideline mascot will be revealed next week. So there'll be a celebration on Standback Plaza for that. And I saw this and thought, are we really sponsoring a rodeo? This is actually I grew up in Texas, so I thought, are we really doing this? It's not. It's the night on down at the Bell Tower Green for all the students. For those of you that are new faculty and staff, it's a wonderful time just to be out with the community and students from all the higher ed institutions here in town. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. And then the Jeff Little Trio, our annual concert. Is Jeff here somewhere? All right. We love this every August. I hope you'll be a part of this on August 23rd. First draft, we're happy to sponsor this. Come have a free drink, and there's a food truck there if you want to get some food, and we just a way of starting out the semester. And okay, now this is something we really want you to know about. And by the way, Meg Dees is off overseas with Bren, our women's volleyball coach. The women's volleyball team is on a tour of Europe, where they are playing matches against European teams. They've been to Normandy, they were at Dachau, and Dr. Ball's with them. They're learning about sustainable travel while they do it. So a group of our folks are over there doing that, and right here, we're gonna have Mindy and Maddie tell us about a really important date coming up.
Okay. Well, first off, the one thing no one has set up here, this is incredibly intimidating looking out at all of you. But as Dr. Nelson said, Meg is away right now. But what I want to share with you is our upcoming campaign launch. This campaign is going to be different. You will not see or hear a big number goal. So that's always the first question. How much are we raising? We're not saying a number. This is a trend that we've seen with other colleges. We started counting during our silent phase during April of 2023. So for those of you who've been here, or you can go back and read some articles, you can probably do a little bit of math and figure out maybe how much we've raised to date. This is a comprehensive campaign, so every gift counts. Additionally, we're talking about this. This is our pivotal moment. This is a moment. Dr. Nelson has talked a lot about moments previously in our history that have made decisions and changed for us where we are today. This is a pivotal moment for us. This is what's leading us to the next steps. Everything you just heard from Garrett, everything that's happening on campus is all incredibly remarkable. And it's a big part of this campaign. But to me, what's the most remarkable is you all. You all will be our stories. You are what we need for this campaign. This campaign is about impact, about making sure we're telling our story of where our good goes. We're focusing on academic innovation. We're focusing on Thrive at Catawba, so all things student success. We're focusing on our centers, our Lilly Center, our Center for the Environment, our Center for North Carolina Politics and Public Service. We're focusing on endowments. We're focusing on scholarships. We're focusing on professorships and directorships. You've seen some articles already come out about some new directorship endowed positions that we have. We're hoping you'll see more of those. We're focusing on athletic facilities. One of the projects that we're working on is expansion to the field house. The weight room is an area that touches every single student athlete and is drastically undersized for the needs of our student athletes. Newman Park, as Garrett mentioned earlier, we're looking at everything that makes Catawba. This is what this campaign is. It's taking us from where we are now to the next place. We're celebrating a lot of really important milestones in this campaign. 100 years in Salisbury, which is right now in 2025. 175 years as an institution in 2026. And just really making sure we're sharing what our legacy is. Our good goes far and where it's going. I think a big thing that we always talk about with campaigns is how do you become involved? What can we do? I've been meeting with deans and leaderships for over a year now, talking about the needs. What are the needs of our programs, our teams, our faculty, our students? But I think the biggest thing is keep doing what you're doing. Keep promoting faculty excellence. Keep driving academic innovation. Keep building authentic relationships. That's what drives the next generation of donors. We're looking for emotional connection from our donors. Greg Alcorn and Deborah Messenger have agreed to be our co-chairs for this campaign. They are involved in GIVE because of the emotional connection they have with Catawba. If you've ever listened to Greg Alcorn, he talks about the faculty and staff that went the extra mile for him. That made a huge impact on him in 1979 when he graduated. The impact that you're making today is shaping our next generation of donors. So thank you for doing that, and I encourage you to keep doing that. I think we know our good will go far. That's no question. We've seen everything that's happening. I think for us, the next question is how far can we take our good and where will we go together in it? So I'm going to let Maddie tell you what that's going to look like on September 13th.
Hi everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Maddie Capel, and I'm here to talk about the campaign kickoff. So it's on a really big weekend at Catawba. It's going to be September 12th through 14th, which you might already know is Family Weekend, and on September 12th is Day of Giving, so that Friday, mark it down if you don't have it. And then that Saturday, September 13th, is going to be the campaign kickoff. This is going to be at 1 p.m. in Hedrick Little Theater. That's where we're going to start out, and we've invited all of you, our alumni, community members, family, friends, and some potential new donors. And the goals of this kickoff are just to create momentum for the campaign, to have a really big celebration with our Catawba community, and bring people in for a call to action. So it's going to be a really immersive experience. We don't want to just be talking at people during this kickoff. There's going to be a few really cool performances. So first we're going to have the choir led by Dr. Burgess performing a commissioned song around the word good. If you can't tell, we're still going off that theme. And then we're going to have some TEDx style talks. One is going to be from President Nelson, and that's going to be around the word good. And then there's going to be another one from Dr. Megan Flocken, one of our philosophy professors, and she's going to be talking about the word thrive. And then to finish up the presentation, we're going to have our campaign video. It's actually a really cool video that I've had the opportunity to work on, and we're taking newer faculty or staff members and some former faculty or staff members and putting them in an interview style conversation together and really get like an older perspective and a newer perspective of Catawba, and it's going to be really great. And then the next stage of this event, we're going to move from Hedrick Little into Brady Courtyard, and we're going to have an experience to show everyone what campus is going to look like. So it's going to be Catawba as forest. We're going to have all plants native to North Carolina, which we'll use in our upcoming capital projects that are going to be all around campus. So you can get a true experience of what it'll look like. And then after Brady Courtyard, we'll lead people into Peeler Crystal, where we will have a lot of our academic areas, departments, and athletics set up, where all of our community members can really experience what our students are learning and experiencing right now, and see what awesome things are happening at Catawba and where else we're going to go. And then after this, we'll go down to the tailgate. There'll be food for everyone, so we hope that you'll join us for the tailgate before the football game. And this will also be a celebration of our 100 years in Salisbury. So we hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy and Maddie. I love that offhand comment. Dr. Megan Flocken, one of our philosophy professors. Yeah, a lot of schools our size have no philosophy professor, and we have plural. I just love that. It makes me really happy. Note that 100 years in Salisbury, right? We'll be 175 years old the next year, but 100 years in Salisbury. And fun fact about that date, September 13th, on the next date, September 14th would have been when they started classes in 1925. Yeah, so by the way, I think we're going to have cupcakes on Monday. We won't bring you up on Sunday, but I think we're going to have cupcakes here on campus for everybody just to celebrate the start of classes 100 years ago. And for those that are new, note that Hedrick Hall was sitting here. They finished it out from January to September to be ready for all the new students to move in. All the classes were there, the library was there, that was the building. And they, in about 6 months' time, built what was called Zartman Hall. You know it as BZ, Barger Zartman, for the women to live in. The men got to live wherever, but the women had a residence hall built in 6 months' time. Catawba was one of the early coeducational colleges in the Southeast, and so they wanted a proper place for the women to live. Garrett, we don't build residence halls in 6 months anymore. Codes are a little different now, aren't they? So mark that on your calendar. It's a really big event in the life of the campus, but also the community. And just know on that family day, we've invited all kinds of folks from the community, and we're also doing a special thing for our neighbors who live around us. In that spring meeting, we asked them what else we could do to help with things, and they said, we don't know each other that well, and we thought, well, we'll have a cookout and we'll invite all the neighbors over. So we're, again, being neighborly. Just note that there'll be all kinds of folks around, families of students, neighbors, and we want to have a big celebration on that day. We're going to conclude in a moment. I wanted to let you know, some of you asked how my summer was, and it's because for those that read email, you know that the board graciously gave me a sabbatical in July. I wanted to give you a background on that. When I came in 2020, I came with a 3-year contract, which is kind of standard for presidents in higher education. And at the end of the first year, the board asked if I would consider making that a 5-year contract, and we agreed to that. And that contract was up this past May. And so last fall, the board began talking to me about the future. And I'm saying this so you know, at a time when higher ed's really in a funny place, Kimberly and I just thought very carefully about what we wanted to do. And here's the context. We came here because we believe in the mission of the institution, and we really love the place. And together, we all built a college of our own, the strategic plan that has a 10-year horizon out to 2033. And we've gotten so much done in the first 3 years of a 5-year plan that leads us to that horizon. And I think our shared thoughts among the leadership of the college and the board and some of you in this room that I talked to, Kimberly and I just felt like, well, we're certainly not done. And so we agreed to another 5-year contract from 21 what are we in, 2025? Yeah, 2025 to 2030. We felt like that's good for us. We felt like for the stability of the institution, that's good. And you can think what you like about it, but I wanted you to know that Kimberly and I have committed to another 5 years at the institution. They came to me with this idea of a sabbatical, which I think one of a person in higher ed suggested they try out, and I said yes, in part, and faculty, hear me, I believe in sabbaticals. I did one as a faculty member, and I know we're moving toward instituting a sabbatical program here. I felt like it was a way of helping the board understand what could happen with that. So a couple of things happened. First of all, I had no idea how tired I was, but I was exhausted, and I truly rested. And I did things that helped me to rest. So Sheila, my first year seminar is ready to go. I am teaching my first FYS, and boy, am I excited about being with students, because I had a month where I could just spend time on class preparation, which I never get. For those of you that are new, I still teach, but I don't ever have time like this, and boy, what a joy it was. I can't wait to get in class. That, and I read 2 Wiley Cash novels. He's going to be our Brady Author Symposium speaker in the spring. I recommend his novels, especially to get some insights into North Carolina. Read Eric Larson's In the Garden of the Beast, and boy, should you read that. It's about Ambassador Dodd in the 1930s going as the ambassador to Germany. I recommend that book, not Dr. Bitzer for reasons I love, but I recommend it. A biography of Isaacson's biography of Jennifer Doudna. Boy, what a great read. I have questions for you, Dr. Camacho. Started on Ron Chernow's biography of Washington. So this is how I rest. And cooked some food, played with the dog. We got to see kids and grandkids and all that sort of stuff. Can't wait. I am back at work, but I'll tell you what, the fact that we have accomplished all we have toward that 10-year horizon, the thought now of we can really turn our face to accomplishing even more on behalf of our students and for the good of all of you that work here and for this community, that's exciting to me. And I think of this comprehensive campaign, the bottom line is right now, if we revealed the number of the silent phase that's been raised, it would be more than any number we would have come up with for a campaign. That's really good news. Our focus is going to be on broadening those who give regularly, consistently, generously to this institution, because we are in a really good place to say to people that this is a really good place. If you want to have impact, this is a remarkable place to invest your dollars. And working on that 10-year horizon and working on a comprehensive campaign to raise resources for this institution, for those of you who serve here as a matter of your calling, and for our students who study here, I can't think of anything better to do with our time and our energy. So, some of us are going to hang out. If you want to come up and ask us questions, you can. Others, I know you have sessions and things to get to, and it's just a joy to see you all back. I look forward to seeing you later in the week. Thank you, everybody.